All right, everybody. Well, welcome to our August virtual tasting for the Forgotten Grapes Wine Club. We are very excited to have Melani Harding, the owner, winemaker, chief bottle washer, and pretty much running absolutely everything of Bon Niche Cellars here in Paso Robles with us. Before we dive into our conversation with Melani, as always, normally we mute everybody, but because we have a smaller crowd tonight, if folks want to ask questions, go ahead and we can do that. But I reserve the right to mute you if your question is, dumb. No, I'm kidding. There are no dumb questions. But we'll make it a little more interactive tonight, which I think will be fun. And I will talk a little bit about next month's wine at the end, but we have another Paso Robles winery, and Melani is a first time for us, which we're very excited to feature her. Next month, we will be doing one of our revisits with the Dubost Winery, one of the first wineries that we featured here back in 2020. And very good friends of mine, a lot of history at the Dubost property, some fantastic wines as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But for now, we are excited to have Melani Harding with us. And I always start our conversations by asking Melani, what is the most memorable bottle of wine that you've ever opened?
So, I've been thinking about this since you emailed that question to me. So
Thank you.
I
It
was
would be
hesitant
it would
to
be
come to
upsetting to me if you said I didn't think about it at all and I'm just going off the cuff.
well, it's interesting because I had two that popped to mind right away, and one is more of a general. So
Okay.
when I was stationed in Naples, Italy, for 3 years as a Navy nurse, and I lived out in town above my Italian landlords. And so Salvatore was making wine in his garden shed. And that's what they served at the family meals on Sundays. And so,
Nice.
like, it wasn't necessarily like this one bottle of wine, but it was, it's the way wine was made there on the property. I mean, the grapes were growing over the carport where I parked my car, and that's what we had with our family meals. And so for me, that's always been a very special wine, even though I could not tell you what type of grape it probably was, or it was never really in a bottle. It was in his fridge, and when we ran out of red wine for the year, they had to wait till the next year. But the other one that really changed my life was in 2016. I had just come off my third deployment and came to Paso with a friend. We went to Tackett Family Vineyards, which is another vineyard here in Paso, and they poured me some Petit Verdot, and I'd never had Petit Verdot as a single varietal, and that instantly became one of my favorite varietals. And so, come to find out that those grapes actually came from the vineyard that I now own and manage.
Oh wow.
And so for me, yes, I didn't know that at the time, but yeah, so for that one kind of changed my trajectory a little bit, like finding out that Petit Verdot that I love so much actually came from this property, um, really helped convince me to buy this place. So,
Yes, and we're going to talk a lot about Petit Verdot in a little bit. You are a woman after my own heart because that is one of my favorite red varietals. I dare say that I will grab a Petit Verdot before I grab a Cab or a Merlot. Pretty much 10 days out of 10. So that is my jam. So I'm glad to hear we are simpatico in that. For everybody who may be watching on the replay or at home, Melani is in her barrel room, as you can see. She is quite a bit of a ways out there, so the internet can get a little dodgy. Fortunately, your audio is working great. The video may be pixelating a bit, but that's okay because the audio is the most important thing here. So we're all good there. So I have to ask you, Melani with an I, what were your parents thinking?
oh, my my mom wanted to name me Melanie, and my dad filled out the birth certificate, and he didn't know there was an E at the end.
Ah,
So,
that's a fabulous story for that.
So my mom has spent like my entire childhood like cutting E's off of things for me growing up. So yeah, that's
You just had a
that's why.
wall full of E's cut out of magazines. Like,
Well, like no, like you get the stickers with your name on it. You can never find one
oh
without an
yeah,
E at the end. So
that's true.
you would like
Or
cut all
yes.
the stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of the little mini license plates from
Right.
tourist
Yeah, we
places
like
with the E
Sharpie
cut
out the
off.
E. Yeah.
I love that. She's got some tin shears that she just uses to cut things off for you. Nice.
Right.
Take us through a little bit of your journey through wine. You mentioned, obviously, you are a veteran. You are now officially retired from the Navy. Congratulations on that. I know
Yeah.
you just
Thank you.
got your retirement papers to go through. Um, but was it your time over in Italy that made you, want to become a winemaker that brought you to where you are now? Or was there something before that where wine entered your life and was that thing you just couldn't shake?
No, it actually was my time in Italy. I moved there when I was 26 and I hadn't drank a lot of wine before that. And when I got my orders, my roommate at the time was like, "Okay, well now we have to drink wine." And we started with the barefoot um and I was like, "Oh, I just still do not like it was really hard." But then I got to Naples and the wine there is just so approachable. It's just amazing. And so, the table wine there is better than a lot of things that you would ever expect to find. And so especially barefoot Merlot. Um, but yeah, so it was my time there that made me fall in love with it. And I am a nurse. I was a Navy nurse. I did 14 years active. And so I like the science. When I was we'd do wine tastings and they would mention something or take us through the family vineyards and they would mention something. And so I always wanted to know why. And so I was always the one asking all the nerdy questions. But what I loved about that is they're bringing you into their home. And like the nonna is cooking a meal at the end of your tasting and you just feel it's a very approachable way to learning about wine and just enjoying life. And yeah, that I took with me when I left. I knew I wanted to do something in wine. I always thought I'd have like a retirement hobby vineyard. Um, but then yeah, I deployed 3 times after that and realized life is really short and I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. And I took a lot of classes, read a lot of books. That's what got me through all my deployments. And when I got back to California in 2016, I started coming up here to Paso. I was stationed down at Camp Pendleton in Oceanside. So I spent a few years there, but I was coming up here like every other weekend. I just loved it. I volunteered at Tacky Family Vineyard for a number of years. So that's where like all the stuff I learned in classes, like how to hook the pump up or how to hook your hoses together, like I was able to do that. So yeah, and that's just, and then I had a really bad week at work. I said I just wanted to buy my own vineyard. Uh, Somebody told me that the people that owned this vineyard were selling, and so I came out here that the next night at sunset. They poured me some Petit Verdot from the vineyard at sunset, and I was hooked. So that's how I'm
I
here.
love it. So I want to go back a little bit if
Uh-huh.
possible. Growing up, I mean, did you always want to be a nurse? And also, did you always want to join the Navy? I know, my dad is a proud Naval Academy grad, class of 68, flew planes, but fortunately or unfortunately, you could decide on that. He never kind of pushed me into a career in the service. But I have the utmost respect for those that serve our country. But was it part of your family, or was it just kind of an adventure that you saw as a way I have no idea to, serve, to travel, to experience new cultures, new people, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say both. My both my grandfathers were in the military. My grandpa actually was in the Korean War, and he actually lives here with me. He's 94,
Hmm,
and so which is amazing. But
that is fantastic.
that was never something that was really pushed on me. I actually grew up in Bremerton, Washington, which is a big Navy town,
Hmm.
and I actually wanted to be a marine biologist. But then I saw nurses in action, and I thought that would be it would be a really more exciting and also well-paying opportunity. So I went to school for nursing, and then I was in nursing school when 9/11 happened.
Hmm.
So, there was a big push for nurses in the military at that time. Um, and yeah, when I realized that I could be a nurse, I had looked at being a travel nurse,
Hmm.
but they don't always get the best assignments, and that's kind of hard. But being a nurse in the Navy meant you still got to travel and do all this fun stuff, but you're still under one, like, one group, I guess. So, yeah, so I joined in 2005, after I graduated with my bachelor's degree in nursing, and off to San Diego I went. So,
Nice. So you spent some time down in Southern California. Very different than Washington, I imagine.
yes. Yes.
A
I
lot of
actually
our,
tried getting back up to,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you were talking about trying to get back up to Washington.
I was, but yeah, I never made it up there, but I did spend lots of time in California, and yeah, I love it here. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of our wine club members live in the like Riverside County, Orange County area, so we're all familiar with Pendleton, especially those that have driven down through the 15 and the 5 down to San Diego. So we're it's a good place. Um,
yeah.
so how you I'm sorry, I'm fascinated about the Navy nurse. It
Mhm.
sounds like if you were stationed in Naples, you weren't assigned to a ship or a carrier or like a submarine, which I imagine would have been a possibility to have been deployed onto. Was that something that you could kind of steer your career towards, or was it just a little bit of luck of the draw, I guess?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. Um, there actually are not a lot of nurses on Navy ships. There's
Okay.
one nurse carrier, um, and that's it. Um, Most of the smaller ships have a corpsman or a PA with them, so they
Oh,
don't
okay.
necessarily have a nurse. So actually, being a nurse on a ship is sometimes hard to get because there just aren't a lot of opportunities. I did deploy on one of the hospital ships, so it wasn't a gray hull, it was one of the white. I
Yep.
went on the Comfort, the Mercy is the San Diego equivalent. Um, and so we did a 6-month humanitarian mission down to Central and South America. So that was my only real time on a ship as a nurse in the Navy. I also deployed to Afghanistan. So I spent 6 months in Afghanistan in 2014. So I was there supporting, it was a joint task force. And so it was like an 8-person medical team that I was a part of. I was, again, the only nurse on this team. But we were there supporting the Army Special Forces. So I know that you don't expect Navy to be in Afghanistan, but when everybody's there, um, we all pitch in. We also are the sole, the Marines do not have their own healthcare. We do their
Mhm.
healthcare, which is why we're on Pendleton. So, um, yeah, so we all, like, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force all take turns in different areas, providing medical support wherever we need to be.
Which I guess makes sense because I think of like the Surgeon Generals of the US, and a lot of them have been, folks in the military, and they all seem to be based from the Navy. So clearly the Navy is kind of the primary medical source for all the others, which makes sense because, Marines are a bunch of lunkheads who, couldn't know.
And yeah, and they get themselves in a lot of trouble. So, but yeah, we have
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
My podcast co-host Stub is a former Marine, so we make a lot of fun of him, but we love our Marines.
Yes.
So you had these different deployments, went to Naples, had this kind of transformative experience where you're probably drinking a lot of, I imagine, Alianicos and Primitivos, but had no idea what you were drinking at the time. Just it was, beautiful Southern Italian wines. So how did you stumble upon Paso Robles? By the way, before you answer that, since we've got such a small group, I know everybody is enjoying the Brava Malbec Rosé, which we'll talk about in a second here. So yeah, if you haven't opened that up, please do and enjoy that with
Can
us.
I interrupt and ask what's after the rosé so that I open the
Oh,
right?
yeah, sorry, that's my fault. I should have said that then. So we're gonna do the Brava Rosé, the Dos Burros, the very, very intriguing Pinot Noir Zinfandel blend. Then we're going to do the Malbec,
Okay.
and then we're gonna finish with the Meat Cute, the Petit Verdot, Petite Sirah, Petite Squared, which I
So
think
you
is
just named five and I got four, I thought.
Brava Rosé, Dos Burros, which is the Pinot Zinfandel, the Malbec, and then the Meat Cute, which is the Petit Verdot, Petite Sirah. That's four.
Got four?
Gotcha. I thought the way you worded that, it sounded like another one.
I've been drinking, so that happens
I
sometimes.
appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally
Okay.
just now, like starting at
I always just
22
like to
minutes
be in
ago.
the right order, and I was doing Malbec Rosé and Malbec. I thought that made sense to me,
Uh-huh.
but I will switch it up because
Malbec
they're
is
all going to be like bolder. The reds are going to be bolder
Well, the Dos Burros, and we'll talk about that in a second, is actually going to be
because it's a
lighter.
blend.
That's going to be more of a chillable style red, so more
Oh,
acid driven. And we'll let Melanie talk a little bit about how that wine came to be because it's
okay.
very kismet, it sounds like, for that one. But
All right.
uh how before we get to the rosé, I just want to sort of get us to Paso Robles and figure out. You mentioned earlier that you know, in Pendleton you were coming up. Did you visit other wine regions, or was kind of Paso and Tackett your first destination and the one that kind of hit you full stop?
Well, I
You still have some left.
so I had a friend in San Diego that had been stationed out at Lemoore, which is about
Okay.
an hour and a half from here. And
Mhm.
so she belonged to a bunch of wine clubs here still. And so she and I came up one weekend right after I got here, and um, we hit up her wine clubs, and then we did go to Tackett because my uncle actually served in the Navy with Leon Tackett, and so my aunt told me that I should come by and meet them. Um, and so yeah, we did Zaneta, which is no longer around, sadly. They were great. And a couple of the other ones that my friend belonged to at the time. So, but we just had so much fun up here. I have a little teardrop camper, and so we brought the camper up and, stayed at Wine Country RV for the weekend. And just the atmosphere here reminded me a lot of, especially in the smaller wineries, it reminded me a lot of the wineries that I visited in Italy, where, it's the winemaker or the family or the owner pouring you the wines, and I loved that. I did do some trips to Sonoma, Walla Walla, Temecula. Um, I would I chose to come to Paso Robles a lot more than I did in Temecula, even though it was a lot closer. Um, and I haven't been back in a long time, so I don't know what it's like now. But and then I also had some friends in my San Diego State University classes that had wineries in Julian and Ramona. And
Yes.
so, experiencing wine from like kind of all around California was really fun, and Washington. But Paso, just there was something here that I just every time I came here, I just didn't want to leave. So.
No, that's awesome. And what's very cool is we have a fair amount of wineries that have Navy connections here in the Paso Robles area. Obviously, you and Leon.
Mhm.
I know Caitlin Pianetta's father was in the Navy and
Mhm.
served at Subic Bay. I know that because he had a map in their back room, and that is the base that my father was based out of in the Philippines.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
when
Oh,
he
that's
used to
cool.
deploy on his carrier, and that's where he met my mother, who's not Filipino, but she was an American teaching school at Subic Bay. And I have heard the stories of their courtship, which are crazy, which is why I don't talk to them anymore. But and then obviously we have Hal Schmidt from Volatus, who is a former naval aviator, Top Gun instructor. So there's a big Navy, I would say even more than like Marines, Army. I feel like the Navy is kind of what future winemakers come out of the Navy, I think is what we're discovering here.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, that's a good point. Because yeah, you're right. I can't think of any like Army or Marine winemakers here. So it's
No,
mostly, yeah.
yeah. And the
Also,
Navy is, I mean, let's be honest, like the Navy is more technical. I mean, you really have to be a deeper thinker. You have to be a little more analytical. You're converting, miles per hour into knots and, also whatever it might be. It's not just like figure out angle of gun to shoot as far as possible.
mhm, that's a good point. So,
Go Navy,
and
beat Army.
yeah, don't tell my grandpa that. He was Army. So,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I
that's a
know it's
little,
it's a fun day
I
for
was
that
gonna
game
say.
around here.
Yeah,
So,
the first weekend in December gets a little tempestuous around your house, I imagine. Perfect. So you okay, well let's put a pause in your history and we'll get back to that. But let's talk a little bit about the Malbec Rosé here. And obviously Malbec is a grape that's near and dear to your heart, although not as much as Petit Verdot as we've established. But I know Joyce and Wally, the owners of the previous the Bon Niche before you purchased it, were big Malbec fans and Malbec growers.
mhm.
So, but I guess if I remember correctly, I guess they did do a rosé. So was that something you kind of picked up from them, or was that something you decided to really do on your own?
No, they actually never did a rosé.
Oh, okay.
But I knew I really wanted to do one. So my first vintage, 2018, I bought some Grenache and made a rosé because that's the traditional
Yeah.
rosé grape. And at the time, we did a lot of photos for our labels, and
Mhm.
because we'd never done a rosé, I had the opportunity to kind of design my own label. And so the label you see is the font that I fell in love with and the design that I felt, and we screen printed because buying, 30 cases worth of labels costs about as much as screen printing.
Right.
And so but I like screen printing my cold wine. So if you stick them in a chest, the label doesn't soak off.
Yep.
And I really like the way it looks. This is the first time I've done gray. Not a big fan of it. I'll switch it back next year. Um, I primarily do white, but having two of the same vintage on the shelf makes it hard to know which one is which. So I thought I'd
Right.
try changing the color. It could have been different, but yeah, so we'd never done a rosé before. So in 2019, I decided we had extra fruit on the vine, and so I decided not to buy another red fruit when I still had Malbec that I didn't know what to do with. So I experimented and I made 30 cases of Malbec Rosé, and it was picked at ripeness. So this was, it was higher sugar, lower acid, and we were so tired at the end of the day, we ended up like not pressing it till the next morning. So this was like watermelon pink by
Wow.
the time it got to bottle. It was really pretty. It was fun. But and everyone loved it. I sold out in 3 months. And so I was like, well, I guess we can try it again next year. And so every year I've been trying to uh, pick a little earlier. So I pick and press it for rosé. So I think
Mhm.
that gives it a little more body. So it's more of a like a red wine drinker's rosé. And then because I pick it early, the acid's a little higher, the sugars are a little lower. Um, my goal is always kind of chasing after the Provence style rosé.
Mhm.
This year, 24, was a very warm year, and so I get a lot more like riper fruit on it than I have in years past. So,
Yeah, it's got a lot of
but yeah,
roundness to
so
it. Oh,
I,
go
I
ahead.
think I really believe it's because I'm picking and pressing for it. So it's not a Vanier, it's not an afterthought. I'm actually like picking it, letting it sit on the skins for a few hours, and after I process it, and then pressing it off the same day. So it gives it a
So
little more body.
yeah. So do you have a specific block of Malbec that you have kind of decided is your Malbec? I mean, how do you choose between this is going to be my Rosé Malbec vines and these are going to be my, red Malbec vines?
That's a good question. So I have 3 blocks of Malbec. And I have found that block 3, which is the one like further west, tends to not ripen as quickly as some of the vines in blocks 1 and 2. So I tend to start in block 3 for my rosé and then work my way back and just kind of see how far I'm going. So, and that gives me an idea because I'm doing it early. It gives me an idea in the field how much we're actually uh, producing that year. So I have gotten anywhere from 4 to 5 tons an acre to like last year was 1.7. So that's a
Wow.
big difference. And if you're pulling off 2 tons for rosé, um, and you're only getting 5 tons,
Yeah.
it gives me a better assessment of like kind of how far we're getting. And yeah, there was one year I was like, oh no, no, we need to stop, like because I'm not gonna have enough for red wine later if we keep going. So um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a little canary in a coal mine, it
it
sounds
is.
like. It's
Yeah,
it's kind
yeah,
of the harbinger of things. I'm
yeah.
fascinated by that first, not the Grenache vintage, but the first Malbec vintage where you picked it at full ripeness and pressed that for a rosé. You know, how challenging was that? Because that high alcohol. I mean, it sounds like you had enough. Obviously, the skins were probably pretty darn dark, so you got a good color out of it. But um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, that would have been 2019. And I'm trying to remember what the weather was like that year. Um, but yeah, it was interesting. It's still like I ended up just treating it like a rosé. And it was I like I have found I have an old world style palate, so I tend to pick my reds a little on the earlier side. I like the higher acidity, slightly lower tannins. Um, so even when I'm picking my red wines, they're still at like 24 bricks. I'm not picking at 28 bricks and then trying to water it back. Um, I like them to be able to, pair well with food and um and I have found that if I pick a little on the earlier side than maybe some of the other winemakers around here. So making a rosé out of that. I actually did that with a Petit Verdot. Wasn't last, it was 24. I made a Petit Verdot rosé, same thing. I picked Petit Verdot. I had an extra bin. We
Mm,
pressed it. So like, but it turned, yeah, it was really dark.
yeah,
We called it PVR and on the label.
I
And
like
so
it.
so the screen print actually looks like PBR, the beer, like we made Petite Verdot Rosé. Because
Yes.
we had it labeled, and I would say PBR, and everyone's like PBR. I'm like, no, 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 PBR. So yeah, so we just went with it. So um,
It's
again,
just it's a purple ribbon instead of a blue
yeah,
ribbon.
exactly.
It's a violet. It's, yeah, Pabst Violet ribbon.
But it was really fun and again, very different than this because I picked with the intention to keep the acidity high, whereas that rosé was picked when my red wine was, and so the acidity was much lower, but it was still a lot of fun. So
So they
yeah.
always say that rosé is for winemakers is actually the most difficult wine to produce. Even more so than whites, definitely more than reds. People think reds must be more difficult, but it's really, macerate, let it ferment in open top fermenters, and then press and put into barrel and pretty much let it go. But I imagine rosé is an entire different kettle of fish where you're working with acidity, getting the color, getting the maceration right, and just the difficulty of that.
Yes. Um, it's a lot of fun. But yes, I spend way more time on my rosé than I do anything else. And I don't I don't add color back at the end.
Okay.
Um, I only adjust the acidity if I picked too late. My goal is to pick the fruit when it's the right acidity for a rosé.
Right.
So I try and like manipulate it as little as possible as possible. But it is challenging. I've had some years where I have had to um, blend it back with something. Um, Last year's actually ended up just going into topping wine. So I didn't like the way it turned out, and I didn't think I could fix it. So I just put it put it back in barrels and topped with it. Which is kind of disappointing, but I mean that's wine making. That's if that's what I have to do. Um, but yeah, it is a challenging one. I've had some years that I've really had to actually I think you had Adam Lazar on, was that
Yes.
last month you
Nope.
said? So
We had
Adam,
Adam 2 months. He was June. Aaron from Shadowrun was May. So yeah, and I was
okay.
gonna mention, he and Leon are besties. So I'm sure you've,
Yeah.
pinballed up against Adam Lazar.
Yes, and that is where I learned a lot of my rosé protocol
Yeah.
and how to like if something's going on, like how to fix it. Yeah, Adam's been was very helpful with all that. And Leon. I mean, I like the way Leon makes his rosé, and so, I kind of copied his protocol and now, now I'm like, okay, well, I like to do it this way and that way. Um, Now that I'm nine nine harvests in, like now it's more my own. But yeah, but that's how that's where I kind of started with my rosés. So
Yeah, it's funny. I think, there's sort of this like the Paso Robles elite, like certain winemakers, the Stefan Aseos and Chris Cherries and Mark Adams of the world who you always hear about when people talk about Paso, but there's truly this sort of like the stealth like expert Paso winemakers. And I think, you've hit on at least two of them, Adam, Leon Tackett. I would throw Amy Butler in there as well as just people who, are amazing Paso Robles winemakers, but they just don't get the hype, the publicity that, the others do, unfortunately.
well, one of my other mentors is Larry Gomez
Oh
at
yeah.
Via Vega. And I
Mhm.
mean, he's been making wine since I think he was like 14. And he has a very old school style of winemaking, very hands off. Like he makes amazing wines, but he's very hands off. Whereas Leon and Adam are very technical. And so what I've loved over the years is asking them the same question because I get two totally different answers. And then I can kind of pick and choose. So like the first year I made port, I was listening, I followed what Leon said about adding nutrient to the yeast, and then I couldn't get the fermentation to stop.
Oh wow.
And then I talked to Larry, and Larry's like, oh, well, because you put nutrient in the yeast, didn't you? I was like, well, that's what Leon said to do. And so now I don't nutrient the yeast. It's way easier to kill it that way. But it's so interesting, like just getting all, both ends of the spectrum. So
Oh, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about that as we get into your wines and kind of your influences and whatnot. But we always love to talk about food pairings with our wines. So with the Brava Rosé, what would you
mhm.
pair something like this? Because I mean, it is definitely Provence style. You've got a nice balance between the brightness of the fruit, where there's, some strawberry, some cherry notes there, but you still have that kind of lean, more acid-driven Provence style. So what would you pair this wine with?
I think at our last winemakers dinner, we did this with like a shrimp endive salad. Um, I also will drink this while I'm cooking dinner. Like it's, you don't have to, what I love is you don't have to have food with it, but it does pair
Right.
really well with food. And I'm
Yeah.
going to say you can, like, as for um like appetizers, salads, as long as the acidity isn't too high,
Mhm.
it will pair with a lot of things. Um, my neighbor's tomatoes are coming in right now, and I've been eating a lot of caprese salad. And so, like, I think this with a caprese salad, especially when it's hot out, like this,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice. So,
Yeah, it's funny. I
but I've
think the
also been
weather,
with turkey. So,
oh, turkey. Yeah, for Thanksgiving.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
rosé at Thanksgiving.
Oh
The best.
God, it's
So,
it is like rosé and a lot of people will turn to Pinot, but I love Beaujolais cru wines, like that kind of richer, still light, but a little more intense note to it. But for this one, to me, like the two things that sort of sprang to mind immediately were like a beef carpaccio, getting back to your Italian roots. I could see just that lighter, like capers, lemon, little arugula, um, or like a stick tartare would be phenomenal with this. I think it's got the weight and the body, but also the acid and enough fruit to stand up to that kind of earthy little Worcestershire, little mustard, capers again, with a stick tartare would be fantastic with this.
yes, that sounds amazing.
Now I'm making myself hungry. Perfect.
I know.
Beautiful. Let's move on. So if you've got the Dos
I
Burros.
had one final question
Yeah,
on
go ahead, Jody.
rosé.
Absolutely.
I was waiting for you to
Yeah.
ask this. So I hear that rosés are difficult to make. And my question is, I love the colors. To me, it was like a salmon color, a wild salmon color. Um, how long were the skins left on? That always amazes me, how short of a time that is.
Yeah, it's usually not very long. When I looked back at my notes for this, and I think I said online in 2 hours, but I think it was actually 3 hours we left on the skins.
Mm.
So I picked it, we put it through the crusher to stemmer, and then I just watch it and wait until I start to see some color come through. And then of course once we press it, we get a lot more color at the end because then you're getting a little more of the skin extraction. But yeah, it's and of course like those are my long days. The whites and the rosés are always my long days because I'm picking, crushing, and pressing in the same day. And so and there's been years where we're like pressing and the sun is going down, and because I was waiting for the color to come through. So yeah. But yeah, this did about 3 hours on the skins. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So the question is, at that point, are you opening a bottle of rosé to drink while you're waiting for that color, or is it like a Coors Light or something like that?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, we
Yeah,
drink a lot of Firestone IPAs around here, so
fair enough. Fair enough. So we'll move on to the Dos Burros for those who are following along at home. And so you know, come back to the States, you've visited Paso, you've decided I want to be a winemaker at this point. You buy the Bon Niche property. What now? Was it like
Mhm.
the ending of the movie The Candidate where you're like, what am I supposed to do now? How how did you learn to tend to the grapes, to make wine? Did you have like did Wally and Joyce sell you all the equipment? Was it pretty much turnkey for you? Like take us through the process of that first year when you made this huge leap and suddenly you're a winery owner.
Yes, so it was a lot. I've taken classes and read a bunch of books, but when you're all of a sudden starting to do it, there's so much that you just don't even realize. I'm getting bills from the water board and I'm like, what is that? And taxes and licensing and where you can sell and what you can sell and what you can say online and what you can't say online. And yeah, it was definitely a fire hose for the first couple years. And uh, so they did leave all the equipment. They didn't make a lot of the wine here on site.
Hmm.
So that was something that I started working towards immediately because that's what I wanted to do. I want to make the wine here. And we've made all the wine here now. Well, red wine since 2021. I bought a glycol chiller 2 years ago. So now I've made my white and rosé here on site for the last 2 years. Otherwise, I was doing it at Leon's. He rents me tank space and I just plugged in my tanks over there. So,
And
um,
sorry to
but
interrupt, but for those who aren't familiar with a glycol chiller, just give us the sort of nuts and bolts of what that is. The top line nuts and bolts of a glycol chiller.
yeah, it's basically an AC machine that keeps your tanks cool, which you want for a white and rosé fermentation. So, uh, for reds, you don't, the length of fermentation doesn't matter as much. For whites and rosés, to get that body, you kind of want a long, slow fermentation. So you want to moderate that temperature a little better. And the glycol chiller is what allows me to do that. So.
Yeah, people don't realize that when you're making wine, the fermentation process, as the yeast starts to eat through the sugars, actually heats up the product, and it can get up to 75, 80, 85 degrees. Where those yeast can still survive and eat through those processes. So for a red wine, it's okay to have those hotter temperatures because you want more of those sugars to be eaten. But when you're picking at a lower acid level where you have less sugar, you want a slower fermentation. So to have a glycol chiller, basically it's a almost a jacket or a series of tubes that wrap around the stainless steel tank and have glycol, which is it's a gel almost that can be
Refrigerant.
chilled to below freezing, basically.
Mhm.
So it will, you know, drop the temperature in that stainless steel tank substantial amount of degrees. So you can get it to, 40, 50, 60, 65, whatever the ideal temperature you want is for those white and rosé. So you have those longer fermentations. So the yeast are eating through slowly and bringing out more of the flavors and aromatics and whatnot of the wine.
Well, and right now we brought in Viognier yesterday, so harvest has officially started for me. And our glycol chiller today was not keeping up with the temperatures outside. We hit 103 today. And so we had to do some quick rearranging to bring the tank inside, but my glycol chiller still doesn't like being outside. So I had to get my mom out of the pool to run to town to get me some more dry ice so we could keep because right now it's just juice. We're just trying to keep it cold, and then I'll introduce the yeast in a few days. So right now I just need it to not grow anything on its own. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dry ice is sort of the bandage for most things. Like if you throw enough dry ice in things, it'll hit stasis
So,
and go there. Um, so you're getting this advice from other people, you're making the wine. But yeah, take us through the chaos of those first couple of years. Like, I mean, I mean, were you happy with how things went? Was it sort of, successful? Obviously, it was a learning process, it sounds like.
oh yeah, it was very overwhelming. But I had amazing support. Lots of people that I could ask questions to. My dad is very handy. My neighbor across the street is very handy. I mean, you talk about vineyard management and all these things, and but my first week full time on the property, I walked out and one of my six valves was laying broken in the middle of the vineyard row. So that's something they don't teach you in class is
And
PV
this is for your irrigation of the
into the
vines. Yeah.
vineyards. Yeah. So it's very important. And um, they didn't teach me PVC pipe repair. So like that is something I had to learn how to do. And in fact, like, that one fix, I think I did like 5 trips to Lowe's.
Hmm.
You learn real quick. You just buy extra. You buy more. Like you don't because Lowe's for me is like 15 minutes away. And so it's, it's I mean, it- but yeah. um, I actually ended up fixing what I fixed that year just a few years ago because it finally I had the hole by the valve, and every now and then it would start leaking again, and I'd like band-aid it again, and so I finally tore it all apart and did it right this time because now I know what I'm doing. But yes, PVC pipe repair was something that wasn't in my wheelhouse. We had equipment that would go out, and if I didn't have my dad or my neighbor Gary to ask like questions of, um, if I had to pay somebody to come out and fix everything for me, I wouldn't still be here today. So I was
Yeah.
very fortunate, to have that much help and knowledge surrounding me to kind of help me like bolster me through that process. So, because yeah, it was a lot. So,
Yeah, it's one of the beauties of Paso Robles is that there are very good people out here who, especially, I mean, in the wine industry, who if you need a hand, you have people to call, people who will help, people who will
absolutely.
give you barrels, give you tank space, give you, let you borrow a forklift or a,
Mhm.
a filter or a pump or whatever it might be for a day, a couple of days, whatever you might need.
Yes. Yeah, I have found it to be very much more of like a collaboration than a competition, and it's amazing. Like that's another reason why I really fell in love with this area is just like yeah, people are just willing to help, you know. So
With exceptions. There are still some assholes here. So, as I can vouch for. But that's a whole other
Mhm.
issue. So this wine is called Dos Burros because, after you had kind of gotten established, gotten the lay of the land, literally the lay of the land, gotten more comfortable with your vineyards, your harvest, your equipment, and everything. And obviously, there's still things that come up every year. But one of the very cool things that you have done on your property is you have turned it into an animal sanctuary, a rescue, which I think is amazing. Is that something that you were always drawn to, or was there a particular impetus for that?
Um, I saw what was the movie, The Biggest Little Farm. I saw that about
Mm,
the time I was buying the property, and I loved how they created such like a what's the right word?
like an
Um,
ecosystem.
ecosystem. Thank you. I've also been drinking.
Yeah.
Um, but you
Cheers.
know they're using this and this to try and combat that. And so when I got here, I chose not to spray for weeds.
Mm,
Uh, and so the first year was really challenging. The weeds were definitely winning. So I got goats because everybody needs a goat. And I ordered 3 goats on Craigslist and ended up with
I mean,
eight,
he
because
is the
it's
Naval
really easy.
Academy's mascot, so it tracks.
That's true. That's true. Um, but so then over the years, the goats don't eat grass, so then I get the sheep, and then the sheep can't go out in the vineyard because I ended up with some taller breeds that can reach the vines. They can't go out in the summer, but then I ended up with a Kuni pig. And Gilbert could go out all summer long, and so then I get more pigs. Well, now I need a guardian animal for them, and that's how I ended up with the donkeys. So, most everybody on the property, except for the handful that have been born here, are all rescues off of either Craigslist or animal sanctuaries. But yes, so the Dos Burros is our latest in our I call it my rescue red blends. Um, I have I've had a few. I have some barn cats that we rescued. So that first one was Naughty Kitty, my three-legged dog. We had a badass Barley. He was hit by a car in 2020. He's still alive. He just only has 3 legs now. Um, and so these are the barrels at the end of the year that don't end up in my premium blends. They go in, we just kind of make a fun blend with them. They're usually not a premium high-end blend, but they're fun. And then I name them after a different farm animal. So we've had Gilbert swine, we've had the Bahram ewe, goat stew Rome. That was a really fun one.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, so this one is named after the donkeys we got just a couple years ago. And this wine should not work. Uh, we had
No, this is an anomaly. You are literally the only person I know who is blending these two grapes together.
it doesn't make sense. It still
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me, but yeah, we had I got some Pinot Noir from Pedro Vino Vargas right before he sold. I got I had 5 barrels. I bottled um four of them and I had a barrel of Pinot. It didn't taste like the others. I didn't like it blended, so I just kind of left it. And then the next year I had some Zin and same kind of thing. Like I had 3 barrels of Zin. I liked two of them. I didn't like this other barrel. It was it tastes it like our notes were like it tastes salty. Like we just didn't know what was going on with it. And so for fun, we decided to put them together and see what happened, and it made this, and it just it's non-vintage, so it was a 23 and a 21, I think. So,
Mhm.
but it's a fun wine. It's super easy to drink, and it rescued those barrels. I didn't know what else I was going to do with them, but then we also a portion of the proceeds from these and our other rescue reds go to a different animal rescue every month. So
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's so unique, and obviously you can, if you kind of look at the cork and everything on it, there's quite a bit of sediment. So, it clearly is the last two barrels of the whole thing. But it's it's amazing how it matches. Like it's just, I mean, you would never think to put something as heavy and intense and like densely flavored as Zin with something as light. Even Paso Pinot, which I know there are critics of it who, are not believe that Paso isn't a place where you should be growing Pinot Noir. It's too hot and whatnot. And even though Pedro is further on the west, he's still in the San Miguel appellation, and it's not close enough to the coast to get the cooling temperatures. But no, it's amazing the acidity of the Pinot just really balances out the jamminess of the Zin on this.
yes, I know. And it's like I said, it's one of those wines. I have one of my wine club members. He's like, "You've really got to
Right.
sell this for more money. This is really good." And I'm like, "But it was, like that's not the point. The point is to have like a fun, like
Yeah.
your everyday wine
Oh
or
my, I can't
yeah,
type.
but it's fun."
So is that something like every year you're looking for that rescue series, like, kind of identifying things that you might have an extra barrel of here or there, and you can kind of throw them into to this. And yes, Larry, this is Pinot and Zin. Melanie, I imagine you don't know the exact percentages of this because it was literally just the two barrels that you kind of threw together.
Yeah, so it was a barrel of Pinot and a barrel of Zin. And even right up to the day we were getting ready to filter, I'm pulling out of the barrel and putting them in the tote. I did nothing else to this except filter it and bottle it. So I mean, you couldn't get more closer to 50-50 if I tried. So
Yeah.
I know it
What
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but
It
I
doesn't
like
make
it.
sense. What was I mean, what sort of were you just using neutral barrels for both of those wines?
Yeah, for yes, for Pinot and Zin, I pretty much use neutral. I like to use the newer oak on my estate
Okay.
things or like a cab.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pinot and Zin they're fun. But they're not like what people come to me for. So I traditionally I use neutral on those. So
Yeah. So what have you found people come to you for?
my Malbec for the most part. So I have a lot of people come out for and then because I grow it here on the property, that's also very enticing. I actually just got a call today because somebody wants to come out because their son really likes pigs. But that's not, they're just they want to come out here to experience and have something for the kids to do. But my Malbec, and then fun um we do some fun blends. I didn't, well, the meat and Q is a fun blend.
Yeah,
that we'll
we'll talk
have
about that in a little bit.
later. Yeah. But yeah, I think my Malbec is probably my biggest draw. So
Still kind of the flagship. We haven't quite gotten to the, you are the queen of Petit Verdot yet, but we'll get there.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice. So yeah, fun, non-vintage. And I mean, I imagine all of your rescue series aren't necessarily non-vintage. You're not holding stuff back. Just, this was truly a happy accident. But
Hmm.
other years, I imagine you're doing kind of vintage stuff on that.
It depends on the year. So
Yeah.
my goal every time we're tasting through the barrels is to, pick the best malt barrels for the Malbec and pick the best Petit Verdot barrels for the Petit Verdot. And then, go down the line. And then as we're starting to blend things, there's always a couple barrels that, might be left over. So it's more that I barrel with or I bottle with intention the things under the Bon Niche
Mhm.
label. Not that these aren't, but those are like what's left. And so it's a way to save the wine that's in the barrel that maybe didn't make it into the premium blend, but and also, then save some animals hopefully. So
So you're a hoarder, is what we've determined, that you're just willing to hold on to these barrels of things that, even though they don't taste good, you'll
yeah,
figure out a purpose for them later in life.
we try. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of work to go into these barrels.
Well, that's true. And it costs a lot to make wine, so you don't want to throw that away. You don't want to, to have to just give that back to the earth. So it totally makes sense. We talked a little bit before we jumped on the air about this wine and how it's a because of that Pinot Noir base, it's got a little more acid driven, so it's a great chillable wine. In terms of food pairings, what would you pair this with? Or is it
Um,
just drinkable on its own?
I mean, I think it is. It's also
I
like
mean,
I always
obviously all of your wines are drinkable on their own. I don't want to imply that they're
no, no,
not,
no, no,
but
I get it. But
yeah.
well, and I always say like my rescue red blend are like those really good like Thursday night pizza wines.
Mm.
Like you don't have to open a super fancy bottle. Um, and it's a fun wine. It'll go with just about anything. So that's your like midweek charcuterie board. You don't want to, open a super fancy one, but it's still really good. So
Yes, whatever leftovers we have in the fridge, we're reheating. Maybe we're making burgers or something on the griddle.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. It will go with all of that. So
Very nice. Perfect. All right, let's move on to your flagship, the Malbec here, the 2020 Malbec. Um, so as you mentioned, there were a couple, Wally and Joyce, Murray. Was Murray their last name, I believe? Is that, if memory?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's pulling stuff out. I can't believe it. Um, who were the original owners of Bon Niche, and obviously, they focused a lot on Bordeaux varietals. They did, I know, Cab Franc. I believe they had Merlot, or they, used Merlot in some of their wines, if memory serves. I used to work with them for some of my wine clubs and whatnot back in the day. But
Oh, fun. Yeah.
yeah, when you took over, obviously they had Malbec planted, but not your favorite grape. Was it something that you maybe thought about replacing, or have you kind of fallen under the thrall of Malbec yourself?
I no, I love our Malbec. So yeah, so I have 7 acres planted. Just over 3 of that is Malbec. No, well, okay. It was 4 acres, and I'll get to that in a second. It was 4 acres of Malbec, about 2.5 of Petit Verdot, and then we had like a quarter acre of Cabernet Franc. It's 4 rows. I'm lucky to get a barrel.
Okay.
Um, so the I think what Joyce had said was that the idea was to plant the other Bordeaux varietals because there's
Mm.
a lot of Cabin Merlot around here,
Yeah.
and so like those are really easy to to find
source
around
from
here.
other people. Yeah.
Um, exactly. And so having these kind of gives us the other Bordeaux. I have one block that is almost an acre, and I tried grafting some Malbec to more Petit Verdot because I wanted more Petit Verdot.
Mhm.
It was also my first year on the farm. Probably wasn't the best idea. I spent more time in the 5 rows on like the entire rest of the vineyard. I didn't really know what I was doing. So there's a lot of failed grafts out there. So, and then with the grape uh, glut that we've had over the last few years, I found that
Yes.
I hadn't picked that block in the last probably 2 years before 2 years ago. So I actually made the
Even for
decision
something
to
like
stop
Malbec.
watering.
Yeah.
Yes. It's hard.
Wow.
There everyone after 23, everyone's cellars were full. And then I was producing um that I think was it 24? I was getting I left about 4 or 5 tons on the vine because we
Wow.
had so many years of overproduction
Mhm.
where everyone's cellars were full. I could not give it away because they didn't
Mhm.
nobody had room for it. And
Right.
so I made the decision to stop, yeah. And I mean it's 5 rows of Malbec, that's 5 times 65. I mean, it's like 300 vines, and so I still have 3 acres of Malbec, which is enough for me. At this point, the future family farming is not counting on selling anything. You kind of want to grow what you
Right.
can use yourself. Um,
Yeah.
which is also why the Malbec Rosé works really well because I can do a Malbec Rosé, I make a
Oh yeah.
Malbec port, um, and that's part of the strategy. But yeah, so my goal is actually to replant with some more Cabernet Franc because I would like to have more Cab Franc and then some Ionico,
Mm.
which is the red grape, yeah, that I drank in Italy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. Cab Franc, tough to grow. I mean, that's a
yeah,
it can be a difficult grape. But like Petit Verdot, very late ripening. So I guess you can kind of keep those two near and dear to each other and grab them at the
yeah,
same point. Um, Malbec is one of those interesting grapes where it feels like, thanks to Argentina, there's been a couple of points where it feels like the Malbec Renaissance, the Malbecissance was upon us, where it felt like Malbec, especially in Paso Robles, was going to become a dominant grape. Like, Cab obviously rules here, but people get tired of Cab. And Malbec was one that it's a grape that people know and acknowledge and see in the supermarkets. So it's not foreign to them, like a Petit Verdot or an Aglianico, some of the stuff we're talking about. Um, but it's never quite hit. Why do you think that is?
I actually do not know because I do have so many people seek me out for Malbec.
Right.
Um, but I a few years ago, the Pleasant Valley Wine Trail, we did like a here and there event, and so I did like a Malbec here and an Argentinian Malbec, and I had a couple of each, and I really dove into the history of Malbec. You know, I think because it so often ends up in blends, people don't even realize they're really drinking it that much.
Mhm.
And it's traditionally one of the 5 Bordeaux, but they don't even really grow it in Bordeaux anymore because it's too cold. So I think
Right.
the warmer climates for Malbec are still catching on. Um, but yeah, I couldn't tell you why more people aren't doing it because it's so fun. It's so easy to work with. I mean, my vines are so happy here. Like like every year, like I'm just like so happy with all the Malbec I'm bringing in. So yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you why people don't, unless it's just because they're not familiar with it. And I mean, cab is king, right? So,
Yeah. But
um,
I mean, again, people people know the Malbec. They go into their supermarkets. They see it's similar to the way that like Australian Shiraz, thanks to Yellowtail and whatnot, kind of hit the shores and everybody got to know the Shiraz grape. It took them a while to realize that Shiraz and Syrah were the same grape, and obviously huge differences between those. But it did feel like, Malbec along with Carmenere from Chile were, so ubiquitous in the supermarkets that people became familiar with them, and yet I guess it hasn't translated to the smaller American wineries.
Right. Well, and that, I do get that question a lot too, is because a lot of people think Malbec is from Argentina,
Right.
not realizing that it started and then
Yeah.
transferred over. And maybe that's something like if you've had some really cheap Malbec from Argentina, that maybe, just like if you had
Yeah.
the the really cheap wines that it's hard to it's hard to want
Well,
to try
it's
them.
like the Merlot before Sideways hit, where Merlot was such a I always called it the like convention center wine. Like if you went to any event at a convention center, it wasn't even cabs they were pouring, it was Merlots and Chardonnays. And it was so like flabby and weak Merlots, but they had become so inundated that a movie like Sideways could actually change the fortune of Merlot because he was speaking truth to power in a sense of, people had experienced such terrible Merlots that they were willing to move on to something like Pinot. And then, of course, you know,
Yeah,
oversaturation of Pinot, and it all circles back to each other.
it does.
Um,
And oh, I was gonna say I made Merlot my first couple of years, and it's lovely, and people just wouldn't buy it. I
yeah,
couldn't tell you how many people still are like, oh no, I don't like Merlots. I'm like, no, 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 this is like the Merlots you're getting now are really good. So
yeah. When I first met Adam Lazar, it was because of his Merlot, which was probably the best Merlot produced in Paso Robles, and he sold a ton of it. And then the minute Sideways hit, it's like everything shut down. It was crazy. Jody
yeah.
wants to know, how old are the vines on your property?
Oh, they were planted in 2009 and 2010. So yeah, they're like 16, 17 years old now.
Yeah. So we've got some
Um,
good maturity on those vines these days. So you talk about, you had Leon, you had Adam, you had Larry Gomez to kind of guide you through the winemaking side, but obviously the grape growing side, a completely different animal to winemaking. So did you have any mentors on the grape growing side, people who were able to kind of come in and tell you this is what you need to do to your vineyards or give you advice?
yes, I have found there are lots of people who are willing to give you advice as long as you pay for it. So,
Mhm.
um, the first couple of years, I I didn't know what I didn't know yet. So, um, I had hired some consultants to come in, but it's also very easy to take advantage of somebody who doesn't know what they don't know.
Yes.
So,
That's the wine industry in
um,
general.
yeah. Um, so now I did a couple things with John Walters. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He is or was the vineyard manager for J. Lore, and he's also a
Mhm.
friend of Leon. So he came out and did a walkthrough with me. I have a pest inspector that comes through once a year, and he still shakes his head because I don't generally spray sulfur. We are hot and dry, and I keep my canopy clean enough that I don't really have to worry about mildew out here.
Right.
We're windy, um, and yeah, not humid. We are very dry. Um, so I've only had problems with mildew once, and that was because I had a water leak and the canopy got out of control. So I mean, that was my own fault. Um, now, I really like Black Diamond vermicompost. So they do vermicompost teas, and so I've been putting those through my drip lines for the last few years. I've noticed a huge difference in like my soil health with that. And
Mhm.
the lovely couple who owned it just sold to a new guy very uh technical, but very knowledgeable. And so he came out, same kind of thing. He did a walkthrough and kind of gave me some ideas of the things that maybe I'm missing. So, but I'm also SIP certified, so sustainability and
Oh,
practice. And so
yeah.
like, I attend a lot of tailgates and online classes and the SIP seminar every year down in San Luis Obispo. So I mean, I get a lot of ideas from everywhere. It's also a lot to just go out and implement. So,
Yeah. I know there are other wineries, Cass Winery and a few others that are SIP certified. Are you interacting with them, sharing notes or just kind of, since that sustainability in practice, which is what SIP stands for, which is not just, you know, um, keeping everything organic and non-chemical in the vineyards, but it's bringing in the animals, it's making sure you're paying a living wage to your pickers. It's a greater umbrella than just what's happening in the vineyard. Are you sharing notes, comparing notes with them, either at the convention or just in daily practice?
well, yes, I mean, we all follow each other. And I'm probably one of the smallest vineyards on the SIP
Yeah,
certified
it's a
list.
lot of work to be
So,
SIP certified, so it's impressive that as a small vineyard and basically a solo owner winemaker, you've done that.
well, thank you. It's just really for me, it was really important to me. I'd been doing a lot of the things that meet the requirements, but it's really documentation. And so once I got the documentation under control, like I mean doing all the things anyway. So um for me it meant a lot to me to have that. Um but I get a lot of support, yes, from the vineyard team who does the SIP certification, and they do, like I said, Niner does a lot of classes. A lot of these wineries, like they're sharing their research and their notes, like with all the rest of us, and so that's really cool too.
Yeah. So I guess the next level is is it the RCO,
Regen-
the
yeah, the
yeah,
regenerative, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Which is a
yeah. That's a
big,
whole nother,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a big commitment. That's big.
yeah, yes.
Nice.
Same thing. I'm probably already doing a lot of the things, but to document it and do it is just another thing
Yeah,
to do in my spare time. So
exactly. And it's one of those things you have to decide, does it, move the needle in terms of what you can charge for your wines, how many bottles you can sell, et cetera, et
exactly.
cetera. So Malbec, typically the Argentinian wines, it's meat, meat, meat. I mean, beef, beef, beef with these.
Mhm.
What's your thought about and this is a 2020. We haven't even really talked about, you are doing this in a combination of American and Hungarian oak, which is really unique. Most Malbecs, they go strictly for the French, but what do you find the new American and then kind of the used Hungarian brings to this?
Okay, so um when I took over the winery, I as I was blending through for things, I found that I really liked the Hungarian oak for my
Mhm.
estate wine. So my Malbec, my Petit Verdot, my Cab Franc. I really liked Hungarian. 2020 was actually the first year that I bought new barrels. And I bought one brand new Hungarian oak barrel, and my Petit Verdot went into that because it's my favorite. And so everybody else, I did one barrel of American oak for my Malbec, for my Cab, and my Cab Franc. So Cabernet Sauvignon, sorry. And so, and then so in 2021, I actually bought all brand new Hungarian oak because I just found that I just liked the way that it doesn't overpower the wine and more it supports it in a better way.
Mhm.
And um so the American oak in this, and I not a huge fan of over oaked wines or even
Right.
oaky wines. My neighbor Dennis, he's always got to help me
Hmm.
build that one for the person that really likes it. Um, but this one is yeah, it's almost a little oakier than it's a lot oakier than I normally do. My 2019 was all neutral oak, and my 2021 I backed off on a lot of the new oak. But uh this was a brand new barrel that I had put of American oak, and then I had blended it back with a different two other barrels that I liked that had Hungarian. And I feel it kind of tempered that that oak a bit because those were neutral Hungarians,
Hmm.
but still let the flavors shine through. So,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I do 3 years in barrel for these guys. So it's 3 years in barrel, at least a year in bottle before I release it.
So you've got, yeah, basically 4 years before things are out in the wild. Um, American is really unique for Malbec. I mean, typically when I hear American oak, it's either like bourbon or Tempranillo because those are things that go into American. So what was it
Mhm.
about American oak that kind of sold you on Malbec?
It was cheaper. That's what I could
Ah,
afford that year.
fair enough. Yeah, no. Which
Yeah.
is ironic because I feel like thanks to the bourbon craze that we've had, like American oak barrels are getting even more expensive than French oak barrels these days.
Well, and they could be now. I haven't bought new barrels in the last few years. Um, but in 2020, it was like $1,200 for a French oak barrel, $800 for a Hungarian barrel, and 600 for an American oak. And
Oh,
so when I mathed it out, if I wanted 4 barrels, I could get one Hungarian and 3 American. And so
right.
for me, it was kind of like, and those were the first new barrels that I've bought. So it gave me somewhere to start. I could see if I liked my Malbec in an American oak, or if I like, and like I said, now it just all goes in Hungarian. So I don't even, so
Have you
it
thought
was a
about any
learning
of the
experience.
like, oh, absolutely. I mean, have you thought about like, I know there's Slovenian oak, Russian oak. I don't know what sort of restrictions there are on buying those these days, but
Yeah, I mean, those would all be super fun to try, but it's all money. And I'm finding that I I like it a little less oaky. And yeah, I blend it back so it's not overbearing, but I'm good with Darren over at Michela has
mhm.
been downsizing. And so I mean, he's been letting me have his his older barrels, which are still like 7 years newer than a lot of what I have in stock. And so it's like he has some fun ones. He's got some French and Hungarian, and so even though they're not brand new, especially Hungarian, I find I still get um some oak profiles from my Hungarian barrels even after 10 years.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
they're such a tighter grain, just don't
Yeah.
give up as much right away. It's more of slow over time. And so for me, like that that actually can make a really, that can make a really fun wine. It's again, it's not overpowering the fruit. You're still getting the fruit coming
Yeah.
through, a little of the barrel. So,
No, that's interesting. So there is no neutral Hungarian oak, basically, is what you're saying. That Hungarians will always
I
impart
mean,
something into them.
well, yeah, I mean, I think I still have some 2012 Hungarians in here. So,
Jesus. Wow.
yeah. So I would say those are probably pretty neutral at this point. But
I mean, the fact that you're not just like seeing a flood of wine come out between the staves on those at 14-year-old barrels is pretty impressive. So,
yeah, as long as it's just like a vine, right? As long as you take care of it, it'll be okay. So,
yeah, that's
yeah.
true. That's true. Let's talk food pairings with your Malbec. I mean, if you were Argentinian, we'd be talking about picanha and ribeye and all sorts of beef dishes. But let's move away from beef. Like
Ooh, okay.
any other concepts, food concepts you have with
I
this?
I always feel bad because I always say like portobello mushroom for
Oh
those
yeah. No, that's
vegetarian folks out
don't feel
there.
bad. Don't feel
When
bad
they,
about that. We love that.
but it really is like it's still because it's still meaty, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Um, I've also done this Malbec, um, like a blue cheese or like a Stilson. I mean, I
Oh
like those
yeah.
with my port, but like with the
Still
Malbec,
ton.
those
Stilson is a
oh,
winery in
yep,
downtown Paso.
sorry, Stilton, yes.
That my winemaker is married into that family. So
Oh, that's right. That's right.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, the blue cheese, like a really rich, earthy cheese would go really well with the Malbec too.
I like that. I mean, a lot of people will say red wine and cheese is not the best combo, but I think with something as strong as a Stilton, I can see a Malbec standing up to that. So that sounds delicious. Last but not least, let's talk about the meat cute. What a cute name for this. And what great labeling. Like, I want to talk a little bit about, I mean, I know Wally and Joyce got a lot of mileage over reaching out to their wine club members and having them take beautiful photographs of different locations, doors, pergolas, whatever it might be, and then they would run a fun little contest and put those photos on the labels. You have obviously moved away from that, which I appreciate. It's kind of establishing the winery as your own. But you've got this fun, like very like uh less than zero 80s kind of like font to these bottles. So take us through your thought with the new labeling.
So honestly, a lot of the new labeling kind of follows the rosé, that first rosé that I did. So,
Mhm.
like I said, because we'd never done a rosé before, I was able to kind of pick a fun font and style.
Yeah.
And so, as we started doing that with the white and rosé, I wanted to see how I could get it onto a label. And so, yeah, we've been playing with some fonts and I mean, so my aunt is actually she's a graphic designer and she will literally she and I trade back and forth. We're like, "Oh, you can't really read the E on this one," so she'll move like make the E more round. And so
Right.
um and yeah, we've been experimenting. So the meat cute is fun because so that's a Petit Verdot, Petite Sirah. That's actually my Petit Verdot and Leon Tackett's Petite Sirah. And so I joked that they had a meet cute in the barrel room, and that's why, we have it together. So so this is interesting. So the I did another one. It's a 2021. It's called Second Date. But
Mhm.
I changed it again. So now I'm
Oh.
doing more foil. Uh
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
but it's really hard to I think it's hard to read. It's harder to read than the other one. So it's and I mean every year is a little different and what labels I can get and what one I can get. So um it's still the same font. It's just done in foil without the background. I think it looks a little more classy, but I think it's harder to read.
I
So
I I,
I
I
don't
hate
know.
to admit it. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I kind of like the matte, the like gray to white font. I think the
Mhm.
foil
Yeah.
actually is it's almost too much.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, so we're like, we're trying this and then we're gonna try something else. And
Yeah.
so yeah. But
There's clearly a lot of experimentation you do at your winery. Have you had any experiments that have kind of blown up in your face? And have you had any experiments that you were like, this is the way?
um well, I'll be honest, this Dos Burros has just absolutely blown my mind.
Mhm.
Um we started doing an estate blend in 2018. And so I've been trying to use more of my own estate wines. Um, it's it's so hard to say because there's so much. There's like, yes, there's some things that are amazing, like the Malbec rosés. I mean, I sell out of those every year.
Yeah.
Um, I also, I had this really nice blend that I made with some 2017 wines, but I did a 4 barrel run. It was 100 cases.
Mhm.
And for me, that's right now, that's about a quarter of my production.
Right.
And wine club really only wants a wine in their shipment so many times.
Yeah.
And so uh what I have been focusing on is making smaller runs, maybe 2 or 3 barrel runs, um, just so that there's a little more variety. So I'm doing more variation, but in smaller amounts. I did do
Mhm.
a Merlot Reserve with my 2020, which did 4 years in barrel. It was the same kind of thing. It was a barrel I wasn't sure what to do with. And then when we tasted it, after another year in barrel, it was incredible. And so, I'm down to like 8 bottles of that now. And so I'm
Nice.
looking at doing another Merlot, but I only did a barrel, so it's 25 cases.
Right.
So it goes fast. Or
Yeah, it's hard to anticipate. Like, with your rosé, okay, that's one that I can do X amount and it will sell out, and maybe I can do a little more because it's so popular. But if
and
you're
then
doing something new, you never know.
right. Oh, absolutely. Well, and like I said, like my 18 and 19 Merlots, I had a really hard time moving those
Mm.
because they were Merlot, not because they weren't any good. People
No,
loved them.
that was the worst time to have a Merlot.
Yeah, I know. I know. So I wasn't gonna do another one, but that barrel was really fun. And so
No.
we're actually looking my 23, we have a barrel of 23 Merlot that is like
Mm.
just stunning. So we're looking at doing another Merlot Reserve, just a single barrel.
Nice. So with the meet cute, like you mentioned, it was Leon's Petit Sirah, your Petit Verdot. Obviously, you love Petit Verdot, and I want to talk about that in a second because I too love Petit Verdot. Clearly, we need to like get together and share some Petit Verdots because I have a bunch here in my house. Um,
Fun. Okay.
but how did those actually meet cute? Was it you brought samples over to him, he brought samples over to you, like, because those are two grapes that honestly, I think the only other person I've heard who has put something together similar to that is the aforementioned Adam Lazar. So like, how did you get samples together to be able to put those together and say, yes, these are compatible?
Okay. So I I bought a barrel's worth of Petite Sirah from Leon back in 2018.
Mm.
So I had it in my cellar already. So it was a little easier to mix and match because I could just go pull it out of my barrel. He had a lot of wine that year, and I was able to buy a barrel from him. So he just
What was
put
your
his
so
wine in
what
my
was your
barrel.
what was your plan when you bought a bottle of Petite
A
Sirah
barrel?
from Leon?
Yeah.
What was your goal, to do a straight Petite Sirah or just
I had
like,
no idea.
oh, it was
Like,
like, here's my money, take it.
well, and yes, but also like Petite Sirah is really fun. It's really popular in the area. I have always loved Leon's Petite Sirah. He grows it on property. It's a really, really nice Petite Sirah. And in 2019, again, I still was like figuring out what I was doing.
Right.
Um, and so um yeah, I was like, yeah, he had extra, and I was like, yeah, that seems like a good deal. And I bought a barrel of Petite Sirah from him. So um my neighbors down the road, St. Kane, so Dave and Beth
Mhm.
Nagging
Yeah.
Gas, they did a petite, and my aforementioned neighbor Dennis, who really likes the big, bold, heavy reds, came over and he's like, "You got to do one of these," and I was like, "Well, like I don't want to force a blend, right?"
Right.
So, but we get down to the 2019s, and I pick out my 2019 Petit Verdot. I pick out this, I pick out that, and I had this another barrel of Petit Verdot left over, and so we started playing with it. And um, he really wanted me to try the Petite, and I did, and I was like, okay, this is actually a lot of fun. Um, I mean, both grapes are so dark and rich that but they complement each other really well.
Yes.
But you're right, I don't see it a lot. I know High Camp does one. Um, but again, like every year to me, I let the barrels are different every year, you know. And so I let the barrels kind of dictate the blends. I always go in with like kind of a goal. But like this year we're getting ready to bottle our 23s next month or in October. And I'm not going to do a single varietal Petit Verdot, which breaks my heart. But like that
Wow.
was just not wasn't the best year for Petit Verdot. None of the barrels really spoke to me. We tried blending them. I mean I can try and force one, but I don't want to do that to them.
Yeah.
So so they'll go in one of the estate blends or one of the Bordeaux blends that I do. So I go in every year with goals, but then there's always some wiggle room because again, I don't want to force a blend. So,
Yeah, winemaking is kind of the ultimate improv sport in terms of you go in with plans and then the barrels, the grapes, the fermentations dictate what you're going to do. Um, that's really interesting. You could even find something to like, because you're allowed up to 25% of another grape to blend in. And there wasn't even something that you were like, 25% of this would give me the Petit Verdot profile that I want.
if it's there, I haven't found it yet. So,
Interesting.
because we're still doing blending trials and stuff. I know. And if I'm gonna put 100% Petit Verdot on the label, I want it to
Mm,
be Petit Verdot.
yeah.
If I'm putting like a little top hat of Merlot, a couple gallons at the very end, like that's not going to make the label. But as a winemaker, I like the honesty on the label. I like to see what's really in
Right.
there and how they did it. And so
Yeah.
if I say it's a Petit Verdot, but I really put 25% Malbec in there, well then
Mm,
I'll call it an estate blend and you know and put those blends on the label. So
that is very upright of you. So, um, no, it's what I find most interesting of this is like I will readily admit, even though I'm Mr. Forgotten Grapes, Petite Sirahs on its own is arguably one of my least favorite grapes to drink because
oh,
I find so many of them are just these like Tootsie Roll jam bombs of fruit and
candy.
sweet and chocolate and overpowering. And like this one is I I I barely register the Petite Sirah, which for me is a positive. Like the blend works so well together, and there's an integration that makes this so smooth, but just so delicious to drink on its own. I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you. Yes, and so the second date, the one I did after, because they had their meet cute, now they're on their second date.
Yes,
That one
exactly.
is actually like 60-40 Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah. So it's
Okay.
less Petit Syrah, more Petit Verdot. And that's just because that's the blend I liked the
Yeah.
best.
And yes, both grapes turn your teeth purple, which is, part of the fun, especially Petit Syrah. So Petit Verdot, let's talk a little bit about that grape because obviously I still have this analogy, which is I look at the five Bordeaux varietals and I look at like a classic rock band, which is that Cabernet Sauvignon is your lead singer. It's out there, it's at the front, it's hitting all the notes. Even if the notes aren't great, it's the one you remember from the whole thing. Um, Merlot is the guitarist, the lead guitarist. It's the Keith Richards. It's he's also out there. It can stand on its own by itself, but it's providing the melody that sort of blends in with the cab. Malbec
Okay.
is the drummer. It's just the like heavy beats, like boom, 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 boom. It's more the bass, more of that like deeper, darker fruit, some tannins and whatnot. And then Cab Franc is that uh bassist that provides the like depth, some intriguing notes, but Petit Verdot is the rhythm guitarist, and nobody has ever said like, "Hey, the rhythm guitarist of this band is X," or like, "Did you know that this guy started as a rhythm guitarist and then led his own band?" Like, and
Okay.
I've always felt that's very unfair because especially in Paso Robles, where we have a very late growing period, and Petit Verdot is a grape that needs a long time to ripen. I mean, this is a generally, if I'm not mistaken, like a mid-October, late October, even early November pick. It's one of the last ones coming in. Um, it needs
Mhm.
time, and Paso, like Cab Franc in the same way, which needs that longer growing period, it's a grape that works in our environment.
Agreed. And I love that analogy, by the way. Like, I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to remember that. So,
Yeah, you can actually, I
uh,
loved your little the cards that we distributed to everybody with the, you know, 1 acre equals this, like one
yeah,
glass equals this. Yeah. So if you want to do one with a rock band, feel free.
I will keep that in mind. So, um, yes. So, like I said, I'd never had a Petit Verdot on its own until I came to Paso. And but I love it. And yeah, you don't see it often as a single varietal, but it is one of my favorites. And you know, it um so Larry Gomez always has the 1, 2, 3 in your palate. So the nose, the initial taste, your mid palate, and the finish. And Petit Verdot traditionally is really good. I mean, a lot of times they use it for color and the nose, but it's also got an extraordinary finish and it can support the mid palate. And like on my single varietal Petit Verdot, sometimes I will add a little of a fresher, younger Petit Verdot. So it might not all be um 2021 Petit Verdot, but maybe I added a little 23 to kind of
Hmm.
give that fruit mid palate because it had
Yeah.
that hadn't softened out yet. But and again, when I do that, I mean, I'm talking a couple gallons at the end, like right before I filter. So it's a very minute amount, but Petit Verdot is just like one of those fixers, just like Merlot. Or like if you have something that's too heavy, Merlot will soften it. If you have something that's too light, Petit Verdot will kind of bulk it up and kind of beef it up. And I love the nose on a Petit Verdot. It's always very floral to me, and very violet-ish, especially my Petit Verdot. Um, and then yeah, and I love my Petit Verdot with eggplant. So if you're an
Mm.
eggplant fan, like I would do, yeah, that is always my favorite. That was my favorite dish my landlady made me. Um, she would make melanzane with the tomato, like the eggplant and the tomatoes that she grew in her garden. You know, and that was always one of my favorite dishes. So, um, Petit Verdot and
Sadly, I have a genetic predisposition where I can't eat eggplant, but
no, I'm
these
so
things happen.
sorry.
That's okay. It tastes like metallic burning to me if I put eggplant in my mouth. It's
Really?
very weird. Yeah, I don't know why, but when I
Oh, that-
went back to college in New Jersey, I had people putting eggplant parmesan in my
Mhm.
path, and I was like, "This looks delicious," and I would bite into it and be like, "This tastes horrible." So, yes, eggplant and I do not get along, but I do love Petit Verdot, and so even though it gets along with eggplant, I do not mind that. Yeah, this blend to me is just extraordinary because I will admit I was a little with the Petite Sirah in this, I was a little trepidatious to open it up, but it is so smooth and so both shows the characteristics of both grapes kind of fleetingly, but at the same time is not dominated by either of um the the characteristics. And the fact that this is a 2020 and is still showing that much fruit, that much vibrance. I mean, it's a beautiful wine.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's actually this is a 2019. So so I mean it's yeah, I don't normally
Oh, it is a
share this.
19. Sorry about that. My
No, it's
fault.
a but this one has just and just like my Petit Verdots, they seem to just keep getting better with age. So my Petit Verdots take a long time to settle out, and that I have found, the darker the grape, the more tannins, the longer I find that they settle out in the bottle. And so I mean, I've pulled my Petit Verdot off the list and showcased like my older ones because I'm just like they're just not ready. They require so much time to open up. But yeah, no, I think this one is just like really it's this last year it's been a lot of fun. So
Yeah, no, this is drinking fabulously right now, 7 years, coming up on 7 years from harvest, which is amazing because you do not see Petite Sirahs or Petit Verdots with that kind of aging on them. So just fabulous. Food pairings with this one. I have some very specific ideas, but go ahead.
okay, what do you think?
Oh, me? I'm thinking
I already
this
said egg.
I want not eggplant. Yes. I want barbecued ribs. I want spare ribs, baby back ribs with like a very molasses, but also tomato sauce rubbed,
Mhm.
basted into the ribs so that you're getting that sort of sticky, sweet, but rich, like it just that whole like there's enough acid in this to counteract the tomato notes, but then you get that kind of molasses sweetness, and the Petite Sirah has that toffee Tootsie Roll sweetness. Like it's all there. It's just all there.
I would go with mushroom risotto. Mm,
Really
I would.
interesting. I
Yeah, maybe
almost,
that's just me. Yeah.
yeah, I as one who has cooked mushroom risottos before, I almost feel like this is a little too overpowering. Like mushroom risotto is such a
So
delicate,
rich. I don't think I think it's so rich.
it
So rich and
it
creamy, and this would cut it
yeah.
well.
It does have the acid that you would want for a mushroom risotto. I just like the flavors are so subtle. I just worry that this would overpower, but maybe that's the fun in it, is that this is almost
Love
like
it.
the sauce that goes on the mushroom risotto.
Well, it's Parmesan, right?
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Or I
That's
mean,
just,
it's
it's
just
rich.
The
Yeah,
yeah,
is
cheese.
how I make mine. It's rich.
exactly. Well, let's consult the expert. Other than eggplant, what else goes with this, Melanie?
I mean, everything you said sounds great. Um, I'm trying to remember. We did this one at a winemaker's dinner a couple years ago, and I think it was, God, I have to look at my notes, but I think we did like a brisket,
Mm,
um, like a brisket dish, and I can't remember what the side was, but it was something either risotto-ish or like uh, the corn polenta, like where you can kind of tie them together.
yeah.
So, because again, you want that structure, I think, in the risotto or the polenta, like because the structure of the rice or corn also helps with that, but then the acid cuts through. So, yeah.
It's a wine that can stand up to smoke, which I think is the important thing. Like if you're doing smoked brisket, smoked ribs, whatever it might be, it's got the flavors, it's got the acidity to really stand up to that barbecue, that pit barbecue style heft to it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
it's delicious. No, this is fantastic. So we've gone obviously a bit over time, but as we're wrapping up here, what is the future of Bon Niche? Is there anything, that you have not experimented with that you want to work with? Or is there anything that you have in barrel that you're excited about? Where do you want to go? What do you see as the future of the winery?
Um, all the questions asked me the day after harvest starts because I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. Uh, but
Look
no,
out for
it's
the
yeah.
2026 Viognier. It's going to be amazing. Nope. Hopefully we did not lose her completely. Nope. Are you there, Melanie? Did we lose you? Hopefully not. We'll give it a minute. Yeah. It's not a great internet connection out there where she is, unfortunately. Oh, all right. she is gone. So, um, awesome. While we wait for her to maybe jump back in, does anybody have any comments? Jody, Larry, and Sandy. Oh, there she is.
Oh, good. I'm glad
Okay.
she's back. I commented the whole time, so I was fine.
Jody was just singing her praises.
I turned the video off, so maybe that'll help.
I think that will. Yeah. No, your vocals already sound a lot smoother. Except now we've lost you again. So, are you there, Melanie? Anyway, Jody, let's get your final thoughts on things.
I can hear you. Can you?
Oh, well, if she can hear, it's all I loved it. It was great. I love the wine story. I love the wines. I love that she's not too oaky. Although I like oaky sometimes, but generally old school in a Chard. I like a
Yeah,
dry, crisp Chard, and I like an oaky, old-fashioned Chard. Loved everything. Loved the story. Loved the labels. I have nothing but praise.
Larry and Sandy, any thoughts? You have to unmute yourself before you talk, Sandy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
That's good.
I loved every one of them. I really loved the Malbec. That was absolutely delicious. And even the white, we loved them all.
Well, it was a rosé, but not a white. But yeah,
Well, I'm sorry, the whiter than the reds.
we knew what you meant. Yes, the pinker one.
They were
So,
delicious. And every one of them, I think she's got a good thing going.
absolutely. No, I mean, Forgotten Grapes is all about showcasing the smaller wineries that are focusing on the lesser known and uncommon varietals. And obviously, Malbec being the one that, when she bought the vineyard, that's what was there. But she loves her Petit Verdot. These are grapes after our heart. And the fact that she's doing it by herself, working with her
Yes.
neighbors, um, incorporating everything, but really, it truly is, excuse me, it's truly a one-woman show, which is honorable and amazing. It's fantastic. Melanie, if you're there, any final words?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
We can, yes. There you go.
Okay, good. Whew. Sorry, I had to switch. I switched my hotspot again. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I caught snippets of what you said, and thank you so much. Um, no, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. This is a lot of fun. I haven't done a Zoom wine tasting since like COVID, so I'm this was a lot more fun than.
They still exist, and we have a good time with them, and we haven't stopped them. So
Yes,
most
no, I love it.
importantly, if folks want to come out and visit you at Bon Niche, or if they want to buy additional bottles from you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Right, so we did just change systems. So my website is a little clunky right now, but I'm working on it. Boniche.com. You can sign up. I think you guys are all on the email list now. I don't send a ton of emails, but they usually have cute animals in them, at least one. Um, you're welcome to come visit. I'm not open very much, but if you either call, text, or email me that you're coming to town, we'll make something work. And for being part of tonight, you'll get a complimentary tasting of my new releases out here at the winery. So um, it's you can't make reservations online yet. We're still working on that, but any of my open days, you can come on through anytime. So
And due to some uh, not licensing, but sort of zoning
permitting,
restrictions.
permitting.
Yes. Permitting
Yes, yeah.
restrictions. She has limited days that she can go out there and do tastings, but if it's a private tasting, so if you wanted to come out and visit her, those things are allowed. and she will do those for you if you are interested in coming out and doing a tasting, meeting some of
Yep.
the animals, the pigs, the donkeys, all the sheep, the goats, the fun animals that she has out there as well, because she really is an animal sanctuary as well as a winery, which is amazing. And you can always go to bonniche.com. You can see the full selection of wines there. I'm not sure if you can buy them online, but you can definitely give her a call and she can ship them down to us in California, or just reach out to me and I can put you in touch with her. That's the easiest way to do it as well. So, are still there,
Yes,
Mel?
and if you do want to buy, yes, if you do want to try and buy wine and well, let me know because then I can try and fix it. We're like I said, I just went live with this new system like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it's a very interesting. Yes. Well, I live here on the property, so I'm all here, and we're going to be in harvest for the next month and a half. So I will always be here. So.
Yes, so don't come and visit her unless you're stupid like me, who's going to come out there Saturday afternoon and try to hang out with her. But I'm gonna
No,
bring
absolutely.
I'm bringing Petit Verdot with me, at least two Petit Verdots that we can drink through. So
I love it.
yes, exactly. Perfect. All right. At this point, Sandy, Larry, Jody, do you guys have any other questions for Melanie?
Nope.
Perfect.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. And I love
Awesome.
your hat, by the way.
Thank you. I thought I came appropriately dressed.
Absolutely.
So for those that are watching, we are doing double up this month because next Friday, the 27th, we are doing the rescheduled Arbuckle Ridge virtual tasting that we originally had scheduled with Scotty Saunders, our July winery that he couldn't make. We're doing that on August 27th. So I sent the email out for that. But if you're interested in joining us, let me know. Shoot me an email. And if not, our next winery, as I mentioned, will be Dubost Winery. The email for that will be going out on the 1st of September. We'll be closing that offer on September 16th. So keep an eye out for that. That one we'll be doing the virtual tasting on, I believe it's the 23rd or 24th, whatever that Thursday is, but it's the last Thursday in September that we're doing that virtual tasting. So keep an eye out for that. But thank you so much to Melanie for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. You're amazing. We love Bon Niche. Please support her. And all right, everybody, have a good night. We'll see you next month, or actually, we'll see you next week for our Buckle Bridge. All right, take care. Bye
Thank
now.
you. Bye.